So our next presenter is the case study from Satellite Beach. This is Courtney Barker, the city manager. Courtney, where is Courtney? Hi, Courtney. Thank you for being here. We look forward to your presentation.
All right, so I get the after lunch crowd. So you gotta make it snazzy and cool and keep you awake, because this is when I fall asleep at work. So in Satellite Beach, we are in Brevard County, if many of you don't know that yet. It took me about an hour and a half to get here, so, because I took A1A. If I took 95, it'd have been an hour and 10 minutes. But we are on a barrier island. We're just south of Patrick Air Force Base, and we have about 10,000 people. So we're a pretty small city. We have the challenges that every barrier island has, beaches, on one side, Indian River Lagoon on the other, and most of the challenges that we're going to be talking to you today are all interrelated with water quality, flood attenuation, sea level rise. So all of that stuff is meshed together. And so when you're taking care of one problem, you're really addressing many others at the same time. And I think that becomes clear when you talk about any resilience planning. We started our sea level rise study back in 2010 is when we published our first sea level rise report. So we started kind of early. And I was not working at the city at the time. One of the good things about our city is we're near NASA, and we also are near FIT. So we have a lot of engineers and scientists in our community. So when you say, it doesn't take a rocket scientist, that means absolutely nothing in our city, because most of the people that are on our P&Z, our city council, and so on are all, of that ilk. And our planning and zoning commission, we have 2 PhDs, FIT professors. One's a coastal management scientist, and another is in sustainability. So this is why we started our study in 2010. So we weren't really special. It wasn't like, we just had some motivating people that wanted to look at it. And I remember being a planning director in Titusville at the time, because my background is urban planning. And I remember looking at it in the newspaper and going, what in the world are they doing? And this is an urban planner that's saying this. So you can imagine what the rest of the community at the time was thinking. But right now, because we started so early, we kind of are a little bit further along in the planning stages and implementation. So that's a good thing. And this is some of the first maps that came out of that. Sea level rise with certain levels of rates, and obviously the red is a little bit further on into the city. And you'll see the same similar mapping structure with each methodology that we've done so far. And so this kind of describes where we've been. When I first got to the city, we began with a Florida Department of Economic Opportunity Resiliency Initiative. I'm sorry. We're adopting our adaptation action areas. So we adopted one on the beach and one on the river, and we just kind of went, I don't really know what to do with these, so we started the planning process with the Coastal Partnership Initiative grant with DEP. And we started that with the East Central Florida Regional Planning Council, and I have to give them a plug, because we're a pretty small city. We don't have a lot of staff to write these grants. We don't have a lot of staff to do a lot of this project management, and the RPC for us did it all. They wrote the grant for us, they managed the project, they put the team together. Some of our team members are here. I know Erin Dede has served on our team. I know, where's Whitney? Whitney has been involved with our city from day one. So, it's kind of a family now, a resilience family throughout Florida. I think I see the same people when we go to do talks. And in fact, last week I was in Jax Beach with 3 mayors, Neptune, Atlantic Beach, and Jax Beach. And so when I got here and I saw 3 mayors and a county chair, I thought, this is awesome. This is the first time I've seen such an interest from an elective standpoint, and I think that's incredible. And like I tell my city council, we problem solve every day, right? That's what we do. You get a phone call, you get a complaint, you go out there and you solve the problem and you're done. But when an elected official starts solving a problem that they're not getting phone calls for yet, And that's because they know the problems coming down the line. That's leadership. That's not just problem solving, that's leadership. And I think that's just wonderful that we're here with all the elected officials in the audience today. So what we did was we started that grant, and then we have an adaptation, and then we have just wrapped up a Sea grant, a Florida Sea grant with Stetson University, and that was a very large project. That was a $300,000 project that went through mapping all of our critical infrastructure, doing building elevations, and basically mapping all of our stormwater, all of that, data that we need when we do all this stuff. So that's that project we've just wrapped up. And this is the Coastal Partnership Initiative grant. We held our first public meeting for climate change in 2014, and that was what the city looked like at the intersection of Jackson and South Patrick Drive at the day before the workshop. And that was because the river, remember all those little things, those little videos? That's exactly what happened here. The river backed into the outfall and flooded Jackson, the intersection of Jackson, which is, we're small, we have A1A and South Patrick Drive. So when South Patrick Drive's blocked, we're all going A1A. So that's, it's a hassle, and we had to close that intersection down. So it was like a blessing in disguise, though, because, when we got to the meeting, nobody asked why we were there. Nobody asked. And so this picture where it says climate change on here it's shared a lot by some of the presenters that were involved when they do other presentations, because they were just so impressed that we wrote climate change on the marquee of our city. But that's, that was, now I think it's a little bit more accepted, but back then it was a little unusual. So here is, we decided when we got into the comprehensive planning part of adopting our comp plan policies back in 2014, our Planning and Zoning Commission decided to use the high curve rate instead of the intermediate or the low, because they felt that every time we do these studies, it gets worse. And why would we plan for the not worst? So plan for the worst, and if it gets better, that's great, but let's go ahead and plan for the worst. So I'm just going to show you those scenarios. And this is 2040 with the 46-inch inundation. This is 2070, and that's 2100. And this is just sea level rise. It's not a storm surge. It's not, a Hurricane 2 or anything like that. It's just sea level rise. Okay. This is storm surge, and this is after 2004 hurricanes for us. Beach erosion's a massive issue for us. We put sand on our beach every 2 years, so it's a big issue. And I don't know how many of you are involved in sand and beach renourishment, or beach nourishment, sorry. If you say renourishment, the nourishment people get all crazy. So if you are involved in that, you'll realize that we're running out of sand. And so it's going to be a challenge in the future. That's going to be a problem that we're all facing. We're going to be fighting each other, in a boxing match over sand. And I see that happening, where we're going to be fighting over sand like we fight over water. So it's going to be a challenge moving forward, because where is your taxable value? It's on your beach, right? I mean, that's where ours is. It's on the river and on the beach. So those are the problems, some of the problems that we have to think about. These are the results of the workshop, and what we did was we used what came out of this workshop, where it says strategies, underground utilities, address needs of seniors, maintain a healthy beach and dune system, solar energy, get tax base into low-risk areas, create more access to the river, encourage renewable energy, and wider pipes. That's a constant theme you'll hear from any resident in any community. Can't you just engineer your way out of it? That's a constant thing. So engineering or retreat, so those are some of the themes. And then also renewable energy. That was a constant thing that we heard throughout all of our public meetings. Okay. So we built a survey, and this is called MetroQuest. I don't know if any of you have seen this tool. It's a survey tool that's online, and it's really cool, a cool tool. So wake up, see, I'm trying to be funny. So what you can do this online. So we put it through Facebook, and then we had some festivals in our community during this period of time. So we, you know how your building people all have iPads now? We just stole their iPads and put the survey on the iPads, and we walked around and got people to take the survey. So we got about 500 responses, which is pretty good for a city our size. And Cape Canaveral, which is a city a little bit north of us, and bigger than us, only got 250. So I'm just saying. So, and don't tell Cape Canaveral I said that. What, Linda? Don't tell Cape Canaveral I said that. Okay. So this is what it looks like, and it's very easy to do. It takes about 10 minutes to get through, and we wanted to make sure it was easy to do. And you know, you just hover over a strategy, and it'll explain what the strategy is. And so it was very. We looked at it as a way to get information, but also as a teaching tool for the residents about resiliency, because at the same time they're learning, what does storm surge do, and what are some of the ways to address storm surge. So when you click on storm surge and 5 different strategies come up, that resident knows automatically that those 5 strategies can address storm surge. So that's kind of the idea, was that it was also, passing on information as well as getting it. And so we did get 579 responses, or 479 responses. These are the top 10 strategies. And these strategies, it's very important, and I tell this to any community I go talk to about this. If you're going to do a survey tool like this, make sure you use it. Don't just do it, because then they'll never take another survey for you again. It takes their time. And so if you're going to get this information, you better make sure that that information bleeds into your strategies in the future. And so you'll see how that's done. We very much took that to heart in Satellite Beach and made sure that we used this information and implemented it as we move forward. So this is the Florida Sea Grant that we started, and we used HAZUS modeling in this one. And this is where we actually modeled the impacts of storms on the city. So not just sea level rise, but storms with sea level rise included in the modeling for the hazard. So if you know what I mean. So not just the rising sea levels, but what is that rising sea levels and climate change impact on the storm impacts on our community. And these are some of the maps that came out of that. And so that's pretty scary, right? Like when we show this to our community, they're like, and we say, no, don't move. It's okay. It's okay. Don't pack up yet. We're going to make sure that we deal with this, and that this is something that we can adapt to, and we can make sure that we, start looking at our infrastructure and looking at our building codes and looking at our development standards and try to be prepared for these things. And, I tell my residents, I grew up in Satellite Beach. I went to Satellite High School. Now I'm the city manager. You will have to, water will be 5 feet in my living room before I move out of my city. So that's how much we're going to make sure that we try to address it. And then I see on Facebook, I can see like some of them who have been to our workshops start congratulating us because we're doing these planning. Like, well, the city really is looking into this, and and I can see that they're happy that we're doing it and not scared. So that's one of the positive aspects of doing this type of planning is your residents see that you're doing something about it, because they know that it's an issue. They read the news too, so they know it's coming. So this is our city facilities that are at risk in flooding, and as a city manager, you look at this map and you're like, God, really? You couldn't just give me one facility outside of that area. So, whoops, let me put that back. So during Irma and Matthew, we had 3 facilities inundated with water. And our public works facility was by far the worst. So we're in the process of replacing it, and we were getting ready to go out to bid for an architect to start the design of this facility in its location. And we thought, ooh, I don't know if we want to do that now, it's probably not the best investment. When we build buildings, how long do you want them to last? Like 100 years, right? You don't want to move it 20 years from now. So that's, when you look at it from a logical, scientific standpoint and not let it overwhelm you, you can start making these decisions. And we made the decision, okay, we need to move it. And so we purchased property, you know, on this side, right here. And we bought one property. A property is very expensive in Satellite Beach, like any beach and community. So, you know, we wanted to make sure that if we're looking at moving facilities, we're going to buy the property today, so we're not paying tomorrow's prices. And we went through, for example, I bought property for stormwater, just about an acre and a quarter. We paid $565,000 for that property. And we even used a straw person to purchase it, because, I don't know, like utility managers in here are like, oh yeah, the government markup when you try to buy property. So if you know, we got a broker to pretend that it wasn't us, you know, to buy it. And we still paid that much money for it. So it's no joke. So you want, if you know you're gonna move your facilities and you know your prices are just gonna rise, you know, start looking at purchasing that property today. So we're moving our public works facility, and then we're also moving our fire station. And that's gonna go on one property, and we're starting to design that. And even though we're not gonna build our fire station for about 5 years, we're gonna design it today, so we can construct it in about 5 years, and it's gonna be, you know, together. So, and we had Stetson University come in and do the elevations for us. They wrote a report, they presented it to City Council, you know, and City Council said, yeah, you know, we don't really wanna invest, you know, all this money into property that we're gonna end up having to move anyway. So that was a strategic decision. And then, you know, we have stormwater. Our city was built in the 60s, late 50s, early 60s, so everything is ready to be fixed today. Isn't that great? And it's all built at the same time. So we have to, you know, everything needs to be fixed like today. And so not only do we have infrastructure failure, but we also have the need for wider pipes, obviously. And so we did our stormwater master plan update. Our engineering firm included all of the sea level rise projections in that modeling. They actually had to change the model. So they did all that, and, you know, it spit back out all these new projects, and we doubled our stormwater fee. And that's incredibly uncomfortable for any elected official to have to be faced with. So we did, you know, just like when I heard Fort Lauderdale say all the meetings that they did for their sea level or seawall ordinance, I mean, that's how you do it. You have to communicate. And we did 100 meetings all over our city and told everybody this is what we got to do, and they went, okay. And when we passed that, we had one person speak against it. One. That was it. So, you know, if you explain it, you let them know why, these are the benefits, this is why we have to do it. It's not just flood attenuation, it's also water quality. You know, we have the lagoon to think about. These are the things that we have to do. And this is the new standard. And, you know, so, you know, this is the new day, and the new day costs this. And they said, oh, you know, they said, okay. Now, that doesn't mean they don't complain. I mean, they're always gonna complain. But they understand, and that's the important part. And then we looked at, you know, what are we gonna do about our land development regulations? You know, how are we gonna develop better? Most of our city is built out, but it's ripe for redevelopment. There's a lot of properties that were, you know, either destroyed in '04 and they're being redeveloped today. So, you know, we have an opportunity to catch it now and say, okay, this is how we want it to be redeveloped. So we ripped this idea off Key West, shamelessly, you know, and I guess rip off's not the best way to say it. You know, we took this idea from Key West, and we created a climate ambassador team. And this is just a group of interested residents. We just, you know, kind of sent out a, hey, does anybody want to help us? And so we had this like very informal team that came in, and we started talking about, okay, what do we need to address first? And the first thing that they wanted to do was address the coastal setbacks from the ocean. And right now we use the coastal construction control line as the rear setback, and we just did an ordinance that increased that setback by 15 feet, and then we decreased the front setback by 15 feet. So we just shifted the building towards the street. And we did get some pushback on that. This is why we do these. You know, we got a DOA challenge. And anybody know what a DOA challenge is? That's the challenge to your comprehensive plan, which I thought was interesting. But we just, the opposing council informed us last week that they were dismissing the case, we decided to do a stipulated facts agreement so we could agree on the rate of erosion and all that, so we could reduce the amount of money we're spending on expert witnesses and all that. And when we sent in our draft of stipulated facts with the rate of erosion, all the pictures, you know, this is why we're doing it, the opposing counsel went, oh, you know, and called his client and said, I don't think you're going to win this one. So, so we have now got that ordinance in place, and we successfully did that. Now, that doesn't mean that we're not going to get another challenge later. That can always happen. I think it is important that we remember, you know, anytime you change land development regulations, you can get a challenge. And that's what I tell my council, you know. It's like we're always stuck in a rock and a hard place as local government. So if you don't give them the permit, you'll get in trouble for violating their property rights. But if you give them a permit and then something happens later, then you shouldn't have given them that permit, you know, city or county, you know. So what I tell the council is, you know, we just really need to do the right thing. Just always just do that. And if we get a challenge, we get a challenge. You know, I mean, we just, what else can you do? So is it the right thing to move buildings away from that? Yeah, of course, it's logical, right? So we think we did the right thing. If we get a challenge, we work through it. You know, that's what insurance is for. So that's, you know, that's kind of the attitude that we're trying to take with the council in doing some of these pretty big deal changes. We also have storm surge, obviously, flooding, and then also we have what we call the stormwater problem. And these are two slides that I give my community when we're talking about this particular issue. This is a building that was built with current stormwater standards, okay? So you see 19% of the site is stormwater. You see the little triangles on there, that's the stormwater. The building takes up 15% of the site. The asphalt takes up 37% of the site. So that tells you two things. That there's not enough, or there's too much parking. I've never seen this parking ever filled. So that's one thing that we're changing right now, is our parking standards. And then the second thing is, when you have, this was a vacant piece of property, by the way, when it was built. When you have this is an old building that was built before stormwater standards. So what's missing? Obviously, stormwater. What else is missing? Trees. And it doesn't have any setbacks, and the building takes up 37% of the site. So would you tear down 37% of your building to build back 19? I mean, 15%? No. That's why nobody's doing that. So they're just renovating it. And when you renovate it, you don't get stormwater regulations. And when we don't get buildings and seas of asphalt to change that, guess who gets to provide it? We do. We have to go buy the property, and we have to provide that stormwater. So I tell my residents, you know, yeah, we can go continue buying up 1.25 acres of property for $565,000 and put on a little tiny pond that treats maybe a parking lot, or they can do it. So we have a height charter amendment, like most coastal communities do, which limits our height in our community to 35 feet. And to get these buildings to raise up and put that stormwater underneath and put their parking underneath, it's going to take some incentives. And that includes not only height, but also giving them the right to put some density on top. And that is where I'm going to go back to this, where is it? To here. We're moving over, the flooded area here. We allow mixed use residential on top of commercial buildings. We're getting ready to take that right away. And we're going to shift it to A1A. So we're hoping that the properties along A1A that are seas of asphalt will put housing units on their second floor, raise their buildings, put the stormwater underneath, and their parking underneath. And the reason why we want them to do that is not only because we want to get building units out of the flood zones, but we also want to encourage them and give them an incentive to tear down their building and comply with stormwater. So not only flood attenuation, water quality, but also storm surge protection, and trying to protect our population. So our city has lost about 2,000 people in the last 20 years because of the base. The base, you know, Air Force and bases are different now. They have less people on the base now. So, you know, we have the closed businesses, and we wanted to try to revive some of that, and that includes putting housing units back into the community. So those are some of the, you know, that's how it's like that song when you teach your kids, you know, the wrist bone's connected to the arm bone. It's the same thing in urban planning, you know. Water quality is connected to storm attenuation, it's connected to affordable housing, it's connected, all of those things are connected. And so when you're looking at these strategies, when you're solving one problem, you're likely solving a couple more. So that's some of the things that we're getting ready to go to. And you know, when I have this presentation, this is what I get all the time. This is Fort Lauderdale, no offense, okay? But they always say that. They're like, oh my God, we're gonna turn into Fort Lauderdale. And I'm like, no, this is Fort Lauderdale, okay? This is Satellite Beach. It's a little different. And you know, so we're asking for 10 feet, you know, not, I think your tallest building is 442 feet or something like that. Yeah, 442 feet, I think, something around there. This is 42. So, so this can't be, this was built right after 2004 hurricanes. They got a variance to their height to go over 35 feet to go ahead and construct the building, you know, off the ground, and they put their stormwater and parking underneath the building. Now, they can't do this today because we have a charter amendment now. So we're getting ready to go to the voters to ask for 10 more feet so people can do this now. So this is the, you know, some of the regulatory challenges that we have to overcome as a community. And so this is the other slide that I give my community. You know, this is the process for land development and zoning approvals. And when you do, you know, we come up with our comprehensive plan, you know, with this, for the height, we'll say, you know, we put all together the policies, and then we put together the zoning district, and then we add the zoning district to the property. And after that, the developer comes in for either a building permit, a site plan, you know, all of those, or if they want to change it, they come into the council to change it. So after they get their zoning, all the elected officials in this room and the staff know darn well that you can't say no. You just can't. I mean, you can change things here or there, move it around, but zoning's a right. It's a property right. And so I tell my residents, if you want to be involved, you have to be involved in the number 1 and 2 step, not the 3, 4, and 5. By then, you're done. So don't, the advertised public hearings, no. You got to be involved in the creation of the regulations. That's when you have to be involved. So when you get my little letter, you know, in the mail that says come to the community meetings, actually come to the community meetings and show up. And, you know, so now they're starting to realize, okay, you know, if I really want to be part of this, I got to come to the meetings. Some of the other policies that were in discussion, you know, we have a lot of people, you know, you could tell people not to build on the beach right up to the edge until you're blue in the face. And they're still going to build right up to the edge because that's how they are. You know, if you go down to Louisiana, I think they were moved out for a long time, and now they're trying to move back. And that's an area that's losing a football field a day in land. A football field a day. So people will build where they want to build. That's the way it is. So because we're, you know, stuck in that rock and the hard place, we decided, okay, we're going to put together an affidavit that they have to sign if they're going to be making major improvements to a building or building in a flood zone or future flood zone. And so when they get that building permit, they have to sign that, hey, we let you know. We want you to be aware. We want you to be informed. And so that's being put together right now. And then we also, there's my typo, I think, right? We also have a sustainability board. We did this in 2015. And this was our way of bringing the community in, because, you know, community members can't be involved really in your stormwater master plan. I mean, they're not gonna, you know, they're not gonna be involved in that. They're not gonna be involved in your seawall studies. You know, they're just not gonna be part of that. But in the sustainability piece, they can be. And this is what we created to bring in the community in these discussions. So we created a sustainability board. It's incredibly popular. It has a waiting list of residents to get on it. I have a council member now that's a former board member. So they're moving into the political process. And we have, so far, we've created a sustainability plan with a lot of green achievement targets. They're working on them every day. They've put solar on our city hall. We have a community garden. I mean, I could just go on and on with their projects. And then they partner with a lot with the younger crowd. The younger generations are very interested in this. And so at the beach, we have 321 millennials are putting in one of those big fishes with the little plastic stuff that goes in the mouth, you know, as an art exhibit. So it's stuff like that. And just bringing that all these groups in to make them start thinking about how all of this stuff interrelates and is together. And I know, you know, Linda's back there with IFISH. She's part of our sustainability stuff every day. So, you know, partnering with all of those groups is very important. And this has been pretty popular to where the rest of the county started adopting their own boards. So we have a number of sustainability boards now in Brevard County through, you know, on a city level basis. And that's it. That's all I got. So I hope I went fast.